My name is Betsy Chang. I'm 29 years old, and apparently I don't understand what real success is. That's what my ex boyfriend told me in the middle of a packed restaurant, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. By day, actually, by a lot of nights too, I'm a licensed master electrician. I started right out of high school when most of my classmates were picking dorm decor and arguing about meal plans. I was crawling through 110-degree attics, pulling cable until my hands blistered, and falling asleep on the couch with the National Electrical Code book on my chest. First year, I almost quit twice. I was the only woman on most job sites, the smallest person on the crew, and the easiest one to underestimate. The old guys I apprenticed under weren't exactly gentle souls, but they were fair. If you could do the work and keep up, you earned your place. They taught me everything from reading blueprints to running three-phase power in a building big enough to have its own weather system. I passed my journeyman exam on the first try, then spent 2 more years with my nose buried in code changes and load calculations to sit for the master license. 4 hours of math, design, and if you mess this up, the building burns down scenarios. Pass rate? Maybe 40%. I passed with room to spare. People hear electrician and picture someone changing light bulbs. What I actually do is figure out how to safely feed power through bones of steel and concrete so that every outlet, every light, every machine hums without killing anyone or burning the place down. It's a puzzle, and the stakes are lives and livelihoods. I love it. I work for one of the bigger electrical firms in our region, but I run my own jobs now. Commercial spaces, medical offices, restaurants, multi-tenant complexes. On the side, I take specialized residential work that needs a master's license. Those emergency calls at 2 a.m. when a clinic's panel is throwing sparks, that's when my overtime rate kicks in. Last year, between salary and side work, I broke 6 figures. I don't drive a Lamborghini or post my bank balance online, but I sleep at night. My truck, a 2019 F-150, is paid off. My 2-bedroom apartment is clean, organized, and quiet. The second bedroom is my home office, with neatly labeled binders and a bulletin board full of job schedules. My dad drilled financial responsibility into my head after watching his brother get ripped apart in a divorce back in the 90s. My uncle lost his house, half his retirement, and the business he'd poured 20 years into. Dad sat me down when I was 18 and said, "Build your safety net before you build anything else. Love is great. Courts are brutal." So I did. Roth IRA maxed every year, contributions to a 401k, 6 months of expenses in emergency savings. No debt except the mortgage I'm planning to take on for a small place just outside the city. A 3-bedroom with a 2-car garage I could turn into a workshop. I've had the listing saved on my phone for months, watching the price like some people watch crypto. By most practical measures, my life was solid. Not glamorous, not influencer aesthetic, but solid. And then there was Nate Carter, 27, marketing for a tech startup downtown. You know the type. Open office, kombucha on tap, ping pong tables, and an entire Slack channel dedicated to dog pictures. He spent his days planning social media campaigns, brand partnerships, and whatever else people in blazers and sneakers do between all-hands meetings. We met at a housewarming party for my best friend Talia. She'd just moved in with her boyfriend, and they'd done that annoying but effective, "Oh my God, Betsy, you have to meet him. You two will be perfect" setup. And for a while, it felt like they were right. Nate was handsome in that effortless, curated way. Dark hair, perfect teeth, clothes that somehow looked both casual and expensive. He could work a room without breaking a sweat, remembered people's names, laughed at the right moments, steered conversations like he'd been born holding a cocktail. When he found out what I did, he didn't flinch. "That's awesome," he'd said. "My brother can't even change a tire. Being able to fix things is a superpower." I believed him. The first 6 months were good, really good. Weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants, going to concerts. He asked about my projects, listened to my stories about nightmare panels and rushed deadlines, laughed when I came home with drywall dust in my hair. Looking back, there were red flags. I just didn't want to see them. At his company parties, when people asked what I did and I said, "I'm an electrician," there was this half-second delay before their expression settled into something polite. "Oh," they'd say, "that's practical." Then they'd pivot to talking about IPOs, UX design, and their upcoming trip to Tulum. I knew they didn't mean to be insulting. That almost made it worse. His parents weren't outright rude, but the message was clear. His dad worked in finance, his mom ran a boutique consulting firm. They asked about my long-term plans with the tone you use when you're asking a teenager about their summer job. Have you ever thought about going back to school? His mom asked over dinner one night, swirling her wine. You're clearly smart. You could run electrical companies instead of just working for them. I smiled, said I was happy with what I did, that being in the field mattered to me. Later in the car, Nate said, "She's just trying to be helpful. I mean, Mom's got a point. You're really smart, Bets. You could do more than manual labor." Manual labor. As if designing an entire power distribution system for a medical facility was the same as tossing boxes in a warehouse. I pushed the comment down, chalked it up to him not knowing what my job actually entails. I told myself the rest of him made up for it, the way he'd bring me coffee when I was buried in paperwork, the way he'd kiss my forehead before I left for a 5 a.m. call out. I told myself we were building something, a future. And then one day I realized I wanted that future badly enough to put a ring on it myself. I know. Traditionally, he proposes, she cries. Instagram explodes. But when has my life ever followed tradition? I started taking every overtime shift I could. Weekends, nights, holidays. I pulled wire until my shoulders screamed, crawled through more attics, fixed more emergency faults than I can count. Every extra dollar went into a separate savings account labeled, in my phone, as Project Upgrade. Really, it was Project Engagement. $8,000 later, I walked into a jeweler's shop with sore hands and a knot of nerves in my stomach. The owner, a guy named Frank with kind eyes and an old-school watch, spent an hour walking me through cuts and clarity. "This one," he said, finally laying out a round, brilliant diamond in a simple platinum setting. Classic, elegant. It's not the biggest rock in the case, but it's quality, for someone who wants substance over show. "Perfect," I said, because that's who I thought Nate was. I kept the ring in the top drawer of my dresser, tucked inside a generic black box under a pile of socks. Every morning, I'd open the drawer and feel that little thrill of panic and excitement. Whenever Nate came over, I'd triple-check it was well hidden. The idea of him finding it before I was ready made my heart pound. I booked a table at Meridian, the trendy downtown restaurant Nate had been hinting about for months. Floor-to-ceiling windows, dim lighting, entrees priced like down payments. I made the reservation 3 weeks in advance and told him we were celebrating his promotion. He bought a new blazer for the occasion. I got my hair done, something I almost never bother with because who cares what your curls look like under a hard hat. When I slipped into my dress that night, a simple black number I could actually breathe in, I stood in front of the mirror and thought, this is it. This is the night everything changes. On the way to the restaurant, I practiced the words in my head. "Nate, these last 2 years have been the best of my life. You make me laugh, you challenge me, and I want to build something permanent with you." I must have checked my purse 15 times to make sure the ring box was still there. My palms were sweating so much, I was afraid I'd short out my own phone. Everything about that night felt smooth and gleaming and perfectly staged. The kind of evening you'd put to a soft piano track and upload as relationship goals. If I'd listened to the tight little knot in my chest, I might have realized all that shine was just a cover. If I'd listened, I could have saved myself $8,000 and a restaurant full of witnesses. But I didn't. And so, I walked right into the most humiliating and ultimately the most important night of my life. Meridian glowed like a jewelry box when we walked in. Warm lights, glass, polished marble floors, the kind of place where the servers glide instead of walk. Nate loved it instantly. I could tell from the way he straightened his blazer and glanced around, already cataloging every detail he could brag about later. We were seated at a window table overlooking the city. From up there, everything looked small and glittery, like a world far away from job sites and breaker panels. I smoothed my dress, trying to keep my hands from shaking. The ring box felt like it weighed 10 pounds in my purse. For the first half of dinner, everything went the way I'd imagined. Nate talked about his promotion, how his manager said he had executive presence, how the CEO personally complimented him on a pitch he gave. I listened, smiled when appropriate, asked questions. I told him briefly about the medical office I'd just rewired. Hundreds of circuits, specialized equipment, the kind of job that takes precision and patience. "Wow," he said, "that sounds complicated." It wasn't dismissive. Not exactly, but the tone was the same one people use when they don't know whether they should be impressed or confused. I let it go. Tonight was supposed to be good. Then the disturbance arrived. A group of people across the restaurant waved. Nate lit up like someone had plugged him into a power source. Oh my God, that's Christine and the team. His coworkers. The same ones who always gave me the practical job, huh? Smile. Before I could say anything, they were already walking toward us. Betsy, Nate said brightly, like I'd been waiting all night for this. Let me introduce you. Christine, his manager, air-kissed both his cheeks and turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hi, remind me what you do again? She asked. I repeated the line I'd said too many times. I'm a master electrician. I run commercial projects and specialize in high-end residential and historic properties. Oh, she said. Right, that's nice. Very hands-on. Another coworker chimed in. Do you ever think about going back to school? You could totally pivot into project management or operations. Make more money. Get out of the, manual side. Nate didn't speak up. Not even once. The group started talking about their upcoming team retreat in Cancun, the networking event in Seattle, industry conferences. The kind of conversations where acronyms replace nouns and everyone nods like they understand. Every time I tried to contribute, my words slid off the table like spilled water. And Nate, my Nate, leaned into their world as if he'd been waiting for an escape ramp from mine. I sat there, smiling politely, trying not to shrink into my chair. When they finally walked away, my shoulders dropped. You okay? Nate asked, sipping his wine. I'm fine, I lied. I wasn't. Something inside me was flickering, sputtering, like a bad ballast. But I reminded myself, this was just noise. The real moment was coming. Our dessert arrived, some kind of chocolate sculpture that looked like a physics project. My heart thudded against my ribs. It was time. I stood up, walked around the table, and took a breath. Nate's eyebrows lifted in surprise. Bets, what are you? I got down on one knee. A soft hush fell over the room. The nearest tables turned. Phones tilted. Someone whispered, a proposal. I opened the box. Nate, I said, voice shaking but steady enough. These last 2 years have changed my life. You've changed my life. I love you. I want to build a future with... Betsy, what are you doing? He hissed under his breath. Get up. Seriously, get up. His eyes darted to the people watching. His co-workers at the bar had turned to look. Christine was holding her martini midair, waiting. I'm proposing, I whispered. I love you. I want... Betsy, he said louder. Stop! The chatter around us dimmed. Even the servers froze in place. I can't... Nate's voice cracked, but not with emotion, more like panic. I can't marry someone like you. It was so quiet I heard the clink of a fork 3 tables away. You'll never understand what real success is. The world seemed to tilt sideways. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Nate's face was flushed, but with shame, not for me, for himself, or rather, for being associated with me in front of his colleagues. The room waited, hanging on the next moment like it was scripted. Slowly, I closed the ring box. My knees trembled, but I stood. I didn't wipe my tears. Not yet. I wouldn't give him that. You're right, I said softly. I don't understand your version of success. My voice strengthened as I added, and thank God for that. I took out my card and placed it on the table. Dinner's covered. Then I left a cash tip big enough to make the server forget this moment ever happened. The restaurant was silent except for my heels clicking on the floor. I walked out through the wide glass doors, down the staircase, past the valet who blinked in surprise but said nothing. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. I made it to my truck without crying. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the keys. When I finally started the engine, my phone buzzed with Nate's name flashing across the screen. I didn't answer. I just drove, not home, not anywhere specific, just away, the ring box still warm in my purse and the echo of his words humming in my skull like a bad electrical fault. For the first 12 hours after the proposal disaster, I didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't cry. I just existed. It felt like someone had cut the power to the whole building of my life, and all I could do was stand in the dark and wait for the backup generator to kick in. By morning, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls and texts from Nate. At first, Nate, Betsy, please, I panicked. Call me, we need to talk. Then, Nate, you know I hate public scenes. Why would you do that? Then, Nate, fine. If you won't answer, at least stop being dramatic. I turned the phone off. Not because I couldn't deal with him, but because I didn't trust myself not to throw the damn thing across the room. I dragged myself into work Monday morning. I looked terrible. Mascara smeared, slept in hair, the whole post-breakup cliché. But electrical panels don't care what your face looks like. Circuits behave the same whether you're heartbroken or on top of the world. And honestly, I needed the distraction. I tightened conduit. I labeled circuits. I tested voltage. I breathed in sawdust and metal dust and fluorescent hum and tried to feel human again. By Tuesday afternoon, he showed up at my apartment. I should have ignored the knock. I should have stayed quiet. But curiosity, or closure, or anger got the best of me. I opened the door. Nate stood there with messy hair, dark circles under his eyes, and a sweatshirt instead of his usual curated outfits. For a split second, he actually looked human. "Betsy," he whispered, like saying my name hurt. "Please, can we talk?" I stepped aside, not because I forgave him, just because I wanted to hear the truth from his own mouth. He sat on my couch, the same couch where we'd watched movies, eaten takeout, planned vacations. Now he looked like he didn't belong anywhere in the room. "I'm sorry," he said, hands twisting, "about the restaurant. I just panicked." "Which part?" I asked quietly. "The part where you said you can't marry someone like me? Or the part where you announced I'd never understand real success?" He flinched hard. "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" He hesitated just long enough to answer the question. "You caught me off guard," he tried. "Public proposals? That's not me. You know I don't like being the center of attention." I blinked. "You posted 6 Instagram stories about your promotion, Nate." "That's different," he snapped. This is serious. And my coworkers were there. And there it was. "And what?" I pushed. He swallowed, eyes darting away. "Bets, you know my world. My parents, my team, my future. They expect certain things. A certain kind of," he fumbled, "compatibility." "Compatibility," I repeated. "You mean status?" "No," he said too quickly. "I mean alignment, shared lifestyle, similar backgrounds." "People who look better on paper," I translated. His silence confirmed it. There was a version of this conversation where I yelled, where I screamed and threw things and demanded he feel the same pain he'd given me. But I didn't want to give him that much power. "You know what the sad thing is?" I said softly. "If I was a lawyer or software engineer, you would have said yes that night." He didn't answer. His silence answered. "I was overwhelmed," he whispered. "I didn't know what to do." "You could have loved me," I said. "That would have been a start." He looked up sharply. "Don't do that. Don't turn this around like I never cared." "I did. I do." "You cared about the version of me that made you look grounded," I corrected. "The hardworking woman you could brag about being real with. The novelty. But someone you could marry?" I shook my head. "You never saw me as a partner, just a placeholder." Nate stood, pacing. "Betsy, please, we can figure this out. Let's take time, work on ourselves. Later, revisit what we want. We don't have to rush into anything." Translation. Maybe, eventually, you could become more palatable, or I could find a way to justify you to my friends. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. His face fell. This is really it?" he whispered. "You ended it on Saturday, Nate. I'm just acknowledging it." He stared at me for a full 10 seconds before stepping out. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly. "You're throwing away something good because you're hurt." "No," I said. "I'm walking away because I'm finally not." The door closed with a soft click. And just like that, the last flickering light of whatever future I thought we had finally went dark. For the next week, my entire social feed turned into a passive-aggressive circus. Someone from Nate's friend group posted, "Some people just don't understand their place. Cringe." Another wrote, "Public proposals should be illegal, for real." Christine, of course, chimed in. "Some relationships aren't built for pressure. That's okay." It didn't take a detective to know who they were talking about. Talia came over with wine and sharp commentary. "Tell me who to block," she said. "I'm ready." I laughed for the first time in days. Work saved me in ways people couldn't. I took every job possible. Graveyard shifts, emergency calls, rebuilds, panel swaps. Long days bled into longer nights, and somewhere between all the voltage readings and conduit bending, the noise in my chest quieted. And then came the Victorian house. A gorgeous, century-old home owned by a retired couple who clearly adored every inch of it and clearly had no idea the entire electrical system was a fire hazard waiting for a spark. Knob and tube wiring from the 1920s. Cracked insulation. Junction boxes older than my grandparents. I explained the dangers. They believed me. No condescension. No second-guessing. Just trust. "You came highly recommended," the wife said. "We want someone who cares." Those words hit me harder than they should have. I spent the next month carefully rewiring that house, one room at a time, without destroying the original plaster or the ornate crown molding. It was delicate, intense, puzzle-solving work, the kind that demands both patience and craft. Every day, the couple brought me coffee, asked about my process, listened like my work mattered, because to them, it did. That house healed something in me without ever saying a word. When it was done, they recommended me to friends. Those friends recommended me to other historic homeowners. Calls started rolling in. My calendar filled. I hired my first apprentice, then my second. Suddenly, I wasn't just an electrician. I was building a business. By the end of that month, I realized something shocking. The night I thought ruined my life was actually the night that set everything in motion. The humiliation didn't break me. It rewired me. Talia insisted I needed to touch grass after a month buried in wiring and old plaster dust. "You're coming," she said, planting herself in my living room like a stubborn fern. "My cousin's wedding. Tonight. Dress up. Stop smelling like copper." "I don't smell like copper," I protested. She sniffed. "Betsy, you smell like an electrician's toolbox had a baby with drywall." She wasn't wrong. So I showered, put on a dress I hadn't worn in over a year, did minimal makeup, and hoped I remembered how to socialize without a voltage tester in my hand. The venue was beautiful. Small, warm, full of string lights, and people actually happy to be there. No pretension. No curated aesthetic for Instagram. Just love, messy, and real. And that's where I met Eli Morgan. He wasn't flashy, wasn't loud, wasn't performing confidence for an audience. Eli had this calm presence, like he'd learned how to breathe in a room where everyone else was rushing. He had warm brown eyes, a crooked smile, and sleeves rolled up in a way that said, "I'm here to help carry chairs if needed." Talia introduced us at the drink table. "Betsy, this is Eli, the groom's friend. Eli, this is Betsy, my best friend and the smartest electrician you'll ever meet." Eli grinned. "An electrician? That's awesome." Genuine, immediate, enthusiastic. I blinked. Most people don't react like that. "My dad was an electrician," he said. "He wired half our neighborhood growing up. He taught me how to install an outlet before I learned how to ride a bike." I nearly dropped my champagne. We ended up at the same dinner table, and what started as small talk became something else entirely. "So what do you do?" I asked. "I'm a nurse practitioner at the Children's Hospital." "Oh wow, you help kids, that's..." He shrugged, a little shy. "It's rewarding, a little chaotic, a lot of bodily fluids." I laughed into my drink. We talked about the chaos of our jobs, our weirdest stories. His involved glitter, mine involved a squirrel in a breaker panel, our favorite takeout places, our families, music, hiking trails. The conversation just flowed, effortless. No overthinking, no trying to impress, no feeling like I needed to rewrite my resume before speaking. At one point he said, "You light up when you talk about your work. That's really cool." I blinked again. Nate had never once said that. After the wedding, Eli walked me to my car. I expected the polite good night wave. Instead, he smiled, a little awkward, a little hopeful. "Can I give you my number?" he asked. "No pressure, just, I'd like to keep talking." Something warm flickered in my chest. I handed him my phone. We texted the next day. Met for coffee 2 days later. Dinner the next week. A hike the week after that. Every date felt like walking into a room with the lights already on. Eli asked about my projects, not with polite tolerance, but with curiosity. When I told him about rewiring the Victorian house, he asked follow-up questions like he genuinely wanted to understand. When I explained how dangerous old systems were, he said, "That's incredible," like I'd just described saving a building. He listened. He valued it. He valued me. One evening, sitting in his apartment eating stir-fry, he asked gently, "So, what happened? With your last relationship?" I hesitated, then told him everything. The restaurant, the coworkers, the proposal, the humiliation, the words that hit harder than a blown transformer. Eli listened without interrupting once. When I finished, he shook his head slowly. "That must have been awful, Betsy. I'm really sorry." "That's okay," I said. "I survived." He hesitated, then added, "My ex wasn't exactly like Nate, but she did talk down to people, especially people in service roles. It bothered me more than I wanted to admit." "Her name?" I asked. "Sabrina." "What happened?" He shrugged. "She berated a barista in front of me. Full meltdown over almond milk foam. That's the night I realized she didn't actually respect people. Any people. I broke it off a week later." We sat quietly for a moment. Then he said the words that changed something inside me. "Your work is valuable, Betsy. It keeps people safe. It takes skill and intelligence. Anyone who doesn't see that, that's their limitation, not yours. My throat tightened in a way I didn't expect. No one had ever said it that plainly before. Meanwhile, my business was exploding in ways I never predicted. The Victorian house referral turned into 3 more historic homes, then a high-end residential remodel, then a restaurant renovation. Then the big one, a medical complex expanding with a new wing, 2 floors, specialized equipment, backup generators, the whole technical maze. They wanted me to handle the electrical design and implementation. Me, Betsy Chang, the woman who apparently didn't understand real success. I hired 2 more apprentices, rented a small office, ordered new equipment, started sketching out what a real contracting company could look like. And right when everything in my life started gaining momentum, Nate texted. Of course he did. Nate, heard about your new contract. Congrats. I ignored it. Next day, Nate, you're doing really well. I miss talking to you. I miss what we had. Still ignored. Third day, Nate, I made mistakes. I know that now. I was shallow, materialistic, caught up in expectations. Please, can we talk? Just talk. That time I responded, not because I wanted to, but because I deserved the final word. Me. You miss the stability I gave you, not me. Not the electrician you were ashamed of. I hope you find what you're looking for, but it won't be with me. I hit send. Then I blocked him. For the first time since the restaurant, I felt something lift off my chest. It wasn't victory. It was freedom. And somewhere in the middle of that freedom, that growth, that happiness, I realized one thing. I still had the ring, sitting quietly in my dresser drawer, waiting for a new meaning. The ring sat in my dresser for months, tucked under folded shirts like a secret I wasn't ready to deal with. Not cursed, not painful, just waiting. Like a tool you haven't decided whether to throw out or repurpose. Eli and I had settled into something steady and warm. No games, no performative affection, no feeling like I had to shrink or sand myself down into something more compatible. He met my parents. My mom adored him before the soup even cooled. My dad bonded with him over childhood stories of Eli's electrician father, 2 tradesmen swapping tales like old coworkers. I met his parents too. His mom was warm and soft-spoken, the kind of woman who hugged before she introduced herself. His dad? A retired electrician who lit up the moment he learned what I did for a living. Let me show you something, he said, disappearing into the garage. He returned with an old metal toolbox so battered, it looked like it had survived a tornado. Inside were tools from the 70s and 80s, voltage testers, wire strippers, even a multimeter that looked like it belonged in a museum. I used these for 30 years, he said proudly. Thought I'd thrown them out. But now I'm glad I didn't. We spent 2 hours talking shop while Eli grinned in the doorway like he'd won the lottery. Those were the moments that rewired me from the inside out. The evenings in Eli's kitchen, cooking dinner side by side. The quiet hikes where we didn't have to fill the silence. The soft good nights when he cupped my face like it was something fragile he intended to protect. One night, after we finished dinner at his place, he was washing dishes while I dried. I stole glances at him, barefoot, hair messy, humming softly, and something inside me settled. Peace, clarity, a sense of knowing. He glanced over. What? I hesitated. Then, do you remember the ring? He froze, dish halfway to the drying rack. The engagement one? Yeah. It's still in my dresser. He put the dish down carefully, turned to face me. Do you think you'll ever use it, or is it too tied to all that pain? I thought about it for a long moment. It wasn't the ring that hurt me, I said quietly. It was who I gave it to. He nodded slowly, eyes warm. That makes sense. He didn't push, didn't suggest anything, didn't hint at expectations. He just held the moment tenderly, like he trusted me to choose the right time. 2 weeks later, I knew. Not because anything dramatic happened, not because Eli did something grand or movie-worthy, but because of the little things. The way he loaded his dishwasher properly, no ego, no arguing. The way he texted "drive safe" every time I headed to a job site. The way he talked about his patients with love, not self-importance. The way he asked questions about my projects because he genuinely wanted to understand my world. The way he made me feel like the safest version of myself. Love, real love, is quiet, steady, and consistent. I decided I wanted to be steady with him too. I took him on a hike to the lookout point we'd gone to on our 3rd date. It had quickly become our place, the one spot in the world where everything felt like it lined up. We reached the top just before sunset. Golden light spilled across the valley, turning everything soft and shimmering. Eli sat beside me on the flat rock we always claimed. He leaned back on his hands, breathing deeply. God, I love this spot. I do too, I whispered. Then I reached into my jacket pocket. His eyes flicked to the movement, widening when he saw the small black velvet box. Betsy, he murmured, are you... I opened it. Same ring, new meaning. Eli, I said, my voice trembling. You make me feel valued in ways I didn't know were possible. You see me. You respect me. You make the world feel lighter. I want to build a life with someone who understands me, really understands me. A tear slipped down his cheek. So, will you marry me? He didn't speak. He just nodded, grabbed my face in both hands, and kissed me like he'd been holding his breath for months. When he pulled back, he laughed, soft and disbelieving. I can't believe you're proposing to me with the same ring, he teased. Recycling is good for the environment, I shot back. He laughed again. Betsy Chang, yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring fit perfectly. He held his hand over mine, admiring it like it was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. Guess this ring finally found the right story, he whispered. Life didn't magically turn into a fairy tale after that, but it became something better, something real. My business grew faster than I could keep up. The medical complex project led to 3 more contracts, an urgent care center, a dental practice expansion, and a high-end solar installation for a new clinic. I took solar design courses at night, studying renewable energy systems until midnight. The path forward wasn't just promising, it was exciting. I hired a small team, 2 apprentices turning into real electricians, a part-time project coordinator, a bookkeeper who saved me from drowning in invoices. My company, Chang Electrical Design, was becoming known for precision work and old-school respect for craftsmanship. Clients said things like, "You're detail-oriented. You actually care. No one explains things like you do." Every compliment felt like its own kind of justice. Then one afternoon, fate sent me a little encore performance. I ran into Christine at a coffee shop downtown. She blinked at me, clearly debating whether she recognized me. I looked different now, stronger, more grounded, happier. "Betsy?" she said finally. "Hi," I replied, neutral. "You look great. Wow, really great." She shifted awkwardly. "I saw the article in the business journal. Chang Electrical? That's you, right?" "It is." "You're doing amazing things," she said quietly. "And listen, I owe you an apology." I raised an eyebrow. She took a breath. "The way we treated you at Meridian, the way I treated you, it was classist and unfair. Nate told us you were temporary, that he wanted someone who'd fit better into the lifestyle he wanted." The words stung less than I expected, mostly because they confirmed what I already knew. "Thank you for saying that," I said calmly. "It's in the past." Christine nodded, relieved. I left the shop feeling lighter than when I entered. Not because she apologized, but because I didn't need the apology to feel whole. Nate? I hear things occasionally from mutual acquaintances. He's dating someone on his level. She's supposedly ambitious, fashionable, very polished, but apparently he complains she's cold, hard to please, quick to judge. They sound perfect for each other. I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him happiness either. I just don't think about him much at all. Our wedding is in 4 months. Small. Family, close friends. No coworkers judging my worth by my job title. No curated photo ops for people I barely know. Just 2 people choosing each other intentionally. We're honeymooning in Colorado, hiking, stargazing, breathing fresh air, eating too much diner food. The opposite of anything Nate would have posted online. Eli's dad is walking him down the aisle. My dad is giving a toast. My mom is already planning the feast. Life is simple, messy, perfect in its imperfections. And I'm happy. Not because everything worked out exactly as I dreamed 2 years ago, but because everything worked out better than I ever imagined. Nate once told me I'd never understand real success. He was right. I don't understand his version, and thank God for that.